Good morning, all. And a review of yesterday's class. We'll do it very fast. Reload new version. Linux is different to Windows, and the difference starts with drive letters. I can have a C drive, I can have a D drive, I can have a E drive. So let me uh, imagine I have three different partitions, but Linux does not work like that. Linux always starts with root drive. This is called root drive. Actually, there is nothing called drive in Linux. It's root folder. It's also pronounced as slash or simply root. We call it as root. So Linux starts here. Is this first point clear to everyone?
Yes.
This is
Yes.
this is very important. Okay. Now, if I have something like this, I have Apache. What is the equivalent in Linux? Who can tell me?
ETC.
No, no. Just look into my string. Please replace this with
Root.
root. And Windows has backward slash, Linux has forward slash. Is the point clear? So simple. We'll practice another one. Hmm. How do I get it?
Root
No,
forward slash
no, no,
resume.
no, no. Root is only C.
Okay. Zero indexing.
There are no drives in Linux. Please remember. Okay? There are no drives in Linux. The concept of drives is not available in Linux. No drives.
Only directories.
That's it. This does not exist in Linux. Bus. That's it. So you cannot compare everything in Windows with Linux. So what I suggest is please kill away Windows from your brains. We are totally dealing with a new operating system. As long as you are comparing both, you fail in comparison. Your mind only goes in comparison. Don't compare. Let us learn everything new. Okay, so instead of C drive, but this is one comparison I have to make. So in Windows, when you install Windows, all the programs are installed in program files. Or now these are the programs that are 64-bit. All the programs, this is program files x86. So this is where Windows installs 32-bit. 32-bit programs are old programs. Latest programs are 64 bits. They can send 64 bits at a time to processor for processing so that the processor will handle fast. 64-bit are more fast than 32-bit. You need not think anything more than that. Then again, see Windows System 32. This is where most of the Windows OS files are installed. C, Windows, System32, drivers, config, SAM. That's a file. That is the file where users are created in Windows. Right? So these are the general files that are important in Windows. And C, users. This is where a home folder for every user is created. So tomorrow, if Abdul is logging into this computer and I create a user called Abdul, here what happens is a folder called Abdul is created. Within that folder, you will have your desktop, your My Pictures, your videos, your downloads, all folders will be in that. So tomorrow, if Abdul says, "Can you change my laptop?" Then what backup should I do for Abdul? I have to back up the entire Abdul folder. This is called user profile. Now I have to roughly try to understand how it is in Linux. So instead of C program files and C x86, Linux installs everything in etc. etc. is the folder where Linux installs most of the things. Slash home is the place where Linux creates user profile. So tomorrow, if I create a user called Abdul and Abdul want to connect to Linux machine, this is where his folder is created. And and Linux does not have desktop and all these things. Linux simply has Abdul. And Linux is always small letters. You don't really see any uppercase letters. Yes, Abdul?
One thing I want to know is Linux is case sensitive, or we need to really follow camel lettering?
It's 100% case sensitive. This Abdul is different to this Abdul. Highly case sensitive.
Okay.
Very, very case sensitive. Both are different. So slash home is the place where Linux creates folders for every user. If there are 1,000 users connecting, it will create all the 1,000 users folders. Windows systematically discriminates between 64-bit and 34-bit and does that. And Windows also keeps everything in System32. The whole operating system is created in System32. Now when it comes to users, PSSWD is a file. Now the problem in Linux, I'll tell you, is even before we start. For example, here we have resume.doc or docx. This is your Windows file. Config.txt. It's a text file. Windows files have extensions dot something, dot PDF, dot something. Linux files doesn't need to have extension. Linux don't care extension. Whether you create config.txt or simply config, It is treated as same. There is no difference in Linux. So there is a file called etc/passwd, and this is where Linux creates Linux users. This is where user passwords are created. So Linux, when it creates about users, it uses two files. It uses a file called passwd to define where it has to create users, and it uses a different file, shadow file, where it stores the password, and passwords are obviously encrypted so that nobody can open and see. Windows keeps all the log files in system32 only, something like a logs. Linux keeps most of the logs files in /var folder, variable folder. When you install some software in Linux, Linux already gives a folder called optional. What Linux says is, why do you want to cook and why do you want to install everything in etc? Why don't you use different folder to install? So tomorrow I'm installing a software. If I did not instruct anything, obviously it installs here. But had I tell Linux specifically, it installs in /opt. Opt stands for optional. Where sorry, where stands for variable. Because log files keep on increasing, the increased size every day, something audit information is written. A user has connected, a user has disconnected, somebody restarted the system, somebody installed something. So every activity is monitored and written to something called as a log file. DevOps engineers have a job called as SRE jobs, site reliability engineers. You are responsible for performance and uptime of a website. Site reliability engineers is a job you are going to do. And to do this job, what is the prereq? Audit, log, monitor. You have to be master of these things. So for a typical Linux administrator, /var is not such an important file. For DevOps, this is life. Why? Why it is life? What does it contains? Log files. For example, let me connect to a Linux server if it is existing. For first time learners of Linux, please give yourself at least 1 week before syncing with us. It takes a little time. It's not magic. It only comes by a great deal of understanding. You just cannot learn Linux chutke mein. It takes time. It has to sink in you. Okay? So uh, don't get disturbed that I'm unable to learn. Definitely it will sink with you. I have seen many. As I told you, I have wonderful experiences of making zero to heroes. Give yourself your own time to think and settle. Okay. Now, PWD says I am my present working directory. Where am I? I am a user called Linux admin. How do you know that? This is called prompt. PROMPT prompt. The prompt says I am connected to this computer. Prompt. Linux prompt. Okay. This is called dollar prompt. When you see a dollar prompt in Ubuntu, suppose I want to become root user. I told you yesterday that there are two users that are created. When you install Linux, at the time of installations, I said my username is Linux admin and I gave some password. If I don't give some password, some SSH, whatever it is, I create a user and a password. Internally, there is a user that is created called as a root user. Both are administrators. This is install time administrator. At the time of installation, I chose this person as the admin name for Linux. At the same time, without asking you, without your permission, Linux also creates a user called root, and he is the main user, super user. We call them as super user. That's the slang in Unix. Linux has come from Unix. Unix was created in 1970 by AT&T company. AT&T is a big American company, and AT&T has a lab called as Bell Labs. So in 1970 they created Unix, and they have been selling it, and that was phenomenally successful.
Smart out here.
Hmm.
So any user can use sudo to get the root access.
Did they talk about sudo?
No,
Then we don't know.
yesterday we.
Okay. Yeah. Any user can execute jobs by typing sudo as long as he is in a file called sudoers file.
Okay.
Because you asked, I'm telling this is only for this gentleman who asked the doubt. Rest of the class kindly ignore. Okay. See what I'm going to do here.
No, no. If we
Let
tomorrow
me
or day after tomorrow you
see.
can cover, then
No,
ignore
no,
it.
no, 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 here. Please listen, listen, listen. In etc, there is a file
Okay.
called sudoers file. No, because you are little advanced. Let me clear the doubt. But at the same
Okay.
time, I'm trying to train you. Don't be ahead of the class.
Okay.
Okay. So this is etc. In etc, there is a file called sudoers.
Okay.
Whoever is made member of this file, they become root. They become admins. For example, let me create a user. We are taking the example of Abdul, is it? Let me create a user. Add user Abdul. And I have to give a
Okay.
password. Let me give the password. I created Abdul. Then using list command, show me the contents of a directory or a folder is ls list command. List me the contents of home folder. So Abdul's folder is created here. That is Abdul's home directory. That is what we were talking earlier. Now, if I want to make Abdul an administrator, right? What I should do
Yeah.
is I should actually edit a file. In this file, come down, come down, come down until you see root. Here you have a root. So I have to say Abdul. Don't ask me why this syntax. No questions, please.
No, no.
All is equal to all. No, because on the time I'll tell you.
Sure, sure.
So say all. So I created a user called Abdul and I give the same permissions as root. This is one way to escalate Abdul as a root user.
Root. Okay.
Or like in Windows, there is a group called admin group. If I make Abdul a
Yeah,
member of admin group, then also he can become a root user. But instead of making Abdul a member of admin group, I directly gave Abdul. Now Abdul is a super user. So Abdul can use sudo now. Got the point? If I save
yes, sir.
this, yes, Abdul is the new admin.
Okay.
I just need not do anything. Abdul is now an admin. If I sign in as Abdul, he can do what our Linux admin can do. He can do what all root can do. Got the point? Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll do a little history of Linux. In Unix was found in 1990. Then they were selling Unix. Then Microsoft Bill Gates went to Unix and say, "Will you give license? We wanted to sell Unix." Then they gave license to Bill Gates. So Bill Gates purchased the license and Microsoft started their first operating system called Xenix. Then there is a Pakistani who wanted to create one of the world's best processor. You know, processor, right? All of you, do you know or
Yes.
not? Okay, the Intel AMD. Okay, so poor fellow wanted to create a microprocessor, sorry, a processor, and he started this company. Unfortunately, nobody helped him, nobody funded him. But that company name is Sun Microsystems. At that time, what Unix told is we will give Unix free to academics, universities. Then there is this person called Bill Joy. So Bill Joy working in the University of California, Berkeley. So University of Berkeley was quite famous actually. Okay, so what Bill Joy did was he modified Unix and he created Unix called BSD Unix, Berkeley Software Distribution. So Berkeley is a university in America. University of California, Berkeley. Top people, top people in the world come from there. Even today, one of the best people, computer scientists in the world, will come from this place. Okay. Recently, when the existing students were given IIT entrance examination, only 5% could solve it. So you can imagine how tough IIT is. That's okay. That's a different story. So Bill Joy created BSD Unix, Berkeley Software Distribution Unix. It's a clone of Unix. Then Bill Joy graduated. He had a couple of friends there. They together created they actually went to this Pakistani guy. Can we purchase your company name? He said, that's okay. It's not useful for me. And chalo yaar, you guys can purchase it. So they purchased this company and they purchased Unix and they created Solaris. Solaris is one of the greatest Unixes in the world. Then IBM created their own version of Unix. Okay. Then IBM created something called AAX. That is their Unix. Then HPUX was created by HP. Hewlett Packard created HP Unix. Actually, I started my career on this. Actually, I was so fortunate. When I was trained, I was so fortunate. I was trained by this guy. So Rafiqur Rahman is a genius from Bangladesh, and this is the first book I purchased from him. Then I became his disciple, and this was the first certification I did, the HP certification. you know so the reason why I am so solid in my Linux is because I started my career with HPUX, and the two from one of the world's best guy in the world. So Unix is traditionally an operating system, and these are all different versions of Unix. Only thing is they added their own company name and they sold it. But this is this is quite expensive. So Silicon graphics, Unix does not have any graphics in those days. So Silicon graphics has created IRIX. Now IRIX is having better graphics. During this time, these are all commercial versions of Unix. When these things are running, when the commercial versions of Unix are running, so one day what happened? There was a person in MIT called as Richard Stallman. So Richard Stallman is a scientist. He is supposed to be one of the top three best developers in the world, all-time developers, with one of the highest IQ levels. So Richard Stallman, what happened for him? His printer got struck. So he went and complained to HP. Your printer is struck. Can you give the source code? I will see if there are any bugs in your printer driver. They gave. He said printer is fine. Then he went to Unix and says, "Can you give me your source code? There is a bug in your Unix. That is why these printers are jamming." They said, "No, no, we don't give you source code. Because we are a commercial company. You purchase and help us." He said, "What the hell are you talking? Your Unix has a problem. Why should I purchase?" Then he said, "I will create a Unix like operating system that is free and open source." What is open source? When somebody downloads my OS, I will also give source code. You can change, you can put your logo, and you can create your own OS, free for everybody to use. And along with him, there is another person who created almost unique kind of operating system called as Andrew Tannenbaum. So Andrew Tannenbaum has created a Unix-like operating system, and Richard Stallman failed to create. Generally, Unix is a combination of number one, how do you talk to Linux? I talk to Linux using commands. How am I talking to Linux? I am talking using commands. So this black and white command line, what you are seeing is called as a shell. And in this case, this is called bash shell. Like in Windows, you have command prompt, CMD. Here you have bash shell. So Linux is all about a shell. User talks to Linux via command line shell. Are you getting the point? Plus, for example, I want to create a folder. So I will say mkdir, say some folder name. So a folder is created and I add a user add, mkdir. All these are utilities, tools, small tools. So that means there are some tools to do system administration. I want to create a file. Nano is the editor. I say nano file 3.txt. I can create, edit a file, and I can save it. So these are all called tools. Now, at the end of the day, you have to talk to hardware, right? Where do I create a file? I create the file in hardware. But neither shell nor these tools can directly talk to hardware. So you should have kernel. So kernel is a broker who actually talks to hardware. So if you want to create a Unix-like operating system, you should first create kernel. Kernel is generally written in C language. You have to create a kernel. That kernel should talk to hardware. But you cannot talk to kernel because I'm not a C language developer. So that is why they created some tools to talk to kernel, and you have to talk via shell. So Andrew Tannenbaum created Minix like Unix. Unix has no any abbreviation. But Andrew Tannenbaum was failure. Richard Stallman created shells and tools. Even today, whatever we are using, all the shells and tools were almost created single-handedly by Richard Stallman. And Andrew Tannenbaum, it was a failure, flop. At the time, there was a student with him in the University of Finland called as Linus Torvalds. So Linus Torvalds declared one day in 1991 January, I have created a kernel that mimics Unix. He has written everything new. He did not copy anything. So that is what he said. So he created kernel. Then immediately he was a student of Andrew Tannenbaum. Then immediately Richard Stallman spoke to Linus Torvalds and said, "Buddy, let us. I have shells plus tools, and you created kernel. Let us combine everything and create an operating system." And this guy created a open source company called GNU. You should call it as GNU. GNU means GNU is not Unix. That is the abbreviation. GNU is G. GNU is not Unix. So he created GNU.org. And also he created freesoftwarefoundation.org. So that means software should be free. Okay, so he created shells and tools, and Linus Torvalds created Linux. When everybody was worried what is the name of the new Linux, so Richard Stallman want to mimic Unix. So he said, I will take the first four letters from your name, that is LINU. From Unix, I will take X. And they called it as Linux. So that was how Linux was created. And Linux is a straightaway duplicate of Unix in many ways, if not much better than Unix, because it is a radically latest operating system. Did you understand how Linux has come in 1991? Ever since, Linus Torvalds was maintaining the Linux kernel. So now, here, now Gunjan wants to create her own Linux. What Gunjan can do is, she can go to kernel.org and download the latest kernel. So anybody can go to kernel.org and you can download the latest kernel is 6.7.4. So this is where Linus Torvalds will maintain the kernels. So anybody can go and download this kernel. So Gunjan can go here, she can download the kernel. Now she has the kernel in hand. What else does she need to create an operating system? Shells and tools. So she can go to fsf.org, freesoftwarefoundation.org. That belongs to Richard Stallman. So she can go there for Free Software Foundation. Okay, then she can search for software. or she can find in gnu.org. So she can go to gnu.org, she can click software, and if you come down, all these are created. For example, MN, whatever we use software is here. Every software we use is here. Every tool we are using is here. So Bash, he created, that is how we talk. What else do you want? Emacs, it's a editor like Notepad. All these are software tools that are created by Richard Stallman. So she can go to gnu.org, and she can download shells and tools. She has kernel. Now she will mix both of them and compile a new OS with own logos. She can keep her own logos and she can have a name of herself. Are you getting the point? So she can create her own Linux. She is going to call her new Linux as Nux. She can call. She says, "I created Nux. It is a new version of Linux," and she should publish that in DistroWatch. What she will do is she'll go to distrowatch.com and she is going to publish the Linux. I created my own Linux. Then her Linux will be here. Like somebody created Easy OS, she created Nux. Her Linux is called Nux. And if people are using, that will hit popularity. Currently, the most popular operating systems are MX Linux, Mint Linux, Endeavour Linux, Debian, Manjaro, Ubuntu, Fedora. This is the order. So people are currently mad at MX Linux. Are you getting the point? Because typically it resembles a Windows desktop environment, and that is based on another Linux. There is a Linux called Debian. So these people duplicated Debian. They did not do like what Gunjan has done. Gunjan has totally recreated her own Linux. But here already there is a Linux called Debian. So what these people can do is they can clone Debian and they can create a new Linux called Mint Linux. That is how they created, or MX Linux, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, all are same. At the end of the day, all Linuxes are same. The difference is, I'll talk about Debian first. Tomorrow, a new tool is created. For example, there is a tool already. Okay. Now there is a new tool called artificial intelligence, AI tool. Suppose somebody create a new tool called artificial intelligence tool. Everybody in DistroWatch blindly goes and downloads and anybody. These are all the Linuxes in the world. Most Linux people will immediately download AI tool and they will declare, we have the latest tool. So use our Linux, you will get the latest tools. Debian does not do that. 1 year after this tool is created, if there are no errors, if there are no reports of any problem with the tool, then only Debian will include them. So every tool, when it's released, is a tool. After some time, after 1 year, the tool becomes stable version. Means no more bugs. This tool has reached stable state. When the tool has reached stable state, then only Debian is going to give the tool to you. But whereas you take other tools, somebody creates a new program that, for example, here Gunjan always want to give the latest tool, so she will always incorporate on 10th February. This is created at 10 o'clock. This will be there with Gunjan at 10:05. But Debian will not do like that. Okay, that is Debian. Now Ubuntu is a now somebody anybody can go to Debian and purchase and you can download Debian. You can go to debian.org. You can download Debian and use it. But tomorrow, if you have a problem, they will not give you any support. You should get community support. You don't get user support. That's the reason why commercial companies don't use Debian. They use Ubuntu. Ubuntu is the 100% clone of Debian. But the difference is Ubuntu is free. Again, Linux is free. Everybody agrees to Richard Stallman. Linux is free and open source. You go to ubuntu.com, you can download, but pay for what? Support. Pay money for support. That will be about 4,000 USD per license. Okay? So Ubuntu is expensive. So companies like Ubuntu thought, Linux is very good, but nobody is giving support. Even before Ubuntu, Red Hat created their own version of Linux called as Red Hat Enterprise Linux. That also is free, but you pay for support. So Red Hat was the first company to commercialize Linux and started recruiting support engineers and training them so that they will support any company. So these are the two best companies that support. And there is another Linux called as SUSE Linux. And SUSE Linux also is same, but this is called SUSE Enterprise Linux. SUSE is a German company, and predominantly their Linux is exclusively made to run SAP or critical geostationary installation systems like weather reports, satellite channels, top quality, highly stable applications require SUSE Enterprise Linux. Now, if you ask me, is it more powerful to all of them? All are same because they use the same kernel. The difference lies in the way they give support. Are you getting the point? So, Ubuntu generally gets the latest kernels. As these kernels keep changing, kernel.org, these kernels keep changing. Okay. For example, even today we are using 5th generation kernel in Ubuntu. Okay, so you go to any Linux and type this command uname -r. Uname -r will tell you what is the kernel you are using. Fortunately, Ubuntu upgraded to 6.2 version of the kernel. So Ubuntu is using 6 version of the kernel. Or you can also type hostname CTL, hostname control, that will tell you both your kernel name and the operating system name. So we are using 6.2. Suppose if you want to test latest, for example, there is a lot of difference in 6.8 versus 6.7. The latest stable kernel means this is successfully running. Mainline kernel means this is called release candidate. RC3 means release candidate. We are testing it. We are not ready for release, but we are ready to release. So what happens is whenever Linux releases something, they release like this. For example, they call it as mainline, they call it as stable. So this is major number, this is minor number, this is feature number. So major numbers are when there is a major change, then only they will change major. But every time there is a problem, you actually create a new program. It is called minor. I'll talk about these things later. Stable means fully tested working version. After stable contains beta version. So they started giving beta version 6.8.0, then 6.8.1, 6.8.2, 6.8.9. At 6.8.9, they said this is this is going to stabilize. This is really working. Nobody's complaining any issues. So then they will rename it as release candidate. RC1, RC2, RC3, and finally they will one day release it as a stable version. I don't know, it could be 6.8 point, say 17. They might release this as the stable version. So these are betas. This is stable. Then they created 6.8 version of kernel. This was 6.7. Are you getting the point? So this is beta. After beta is successful, then they will create release candidate. Oh, this version can be released to worldwide. So that's called release candidate. After beta stage, release candidate stage. After that, finally one day they will release. Now, what is the difference between 6.7? Until here, kernel was written in C language. This is the first time Linus Torvalds and Linus Torvalds has a big team in the world. All are working for free. Say somebody is working for Capgemini, but that person can contribute to kernel. There are many people who are contributing to kernels. You know, Citrix company. Did anybody hear about Citrix? Citrix creates lot of, when, okay, we'll talk about it when I talk virtualization. We'll talk about Citrix products. Okay, 99% you are going to use Citrix in real office. Are you getting the point? I'm talking about 98, 99 when Citrix was not fully developed. Citrix is now a commercial company. 80% of AWS runs on Citrix. Do you know which virtualization AWS uses? They use Citrix hypervisor. AWS is fully using Citrix. Are you getting the point? AWS is fully using Citrix. What should I tell you? The whole AWS is dependent on Citrix. So when Citrix was into early stages, that was in 1999 and 2000. When Citrix, Citrix was just coming up, like how these Linuxes are coming up in the beta version. When Citrix was in beta version, there is an engineering college in Hyderabad. You don't believe, even I was stunned. There is a college called Mufakamja. I don't know how many of you know it. Okay, there used to be a small team in Mufakamja College. They were contributing to Citrix. Hyderabad was contributing to the whole IT industry 25 years back onwards. All the students in Mufakamja College, they have contributed phenomenally to Citrix. So there was a Citrix user group. Okay, so that user group, I don't know if the user group is still existing. Okay, that user group used to support. So worldwide people support. Osmania University used to support. So that is how Worldwide, lot of people supports Linus Torvalds. Who is Linus Torvalds? The person who created Linux. So these people, worldwide students, everybody supports him to create. But the major difference is they have created in Rust language. Rust is a new language that's a radically phenomenal language. So instead of using C, they started using Rust language. And Rust is more easy, more powerful, more advanced. So the latest Linux kernel 6.8 was written in, I mean, not the total, but most of the thing is written in Rust. Because it was written in Rust, what happened? Say, for example, I am talking to you, right? I am talking to you using this mic. This is the mic I use. It's about 45,000 rupees. You know, Sid Sriram, he sings well with this mic. I talk on this mic, but Sid Sriram will sing with this mic. So this is exactly I'm talking to you now. Okay, this is the mic. Now, for this mic to work, we need an amplifier. Okay, I exactly use this amplifier. You can see all these things when there is any music concert. So I use this amplifier. Unfortunately, this amplifier, all these products, you know, the kind of whatever I'm showing to you, all these work with Windows and Mac. They don't work with Linux. And do you know this gaming company, Nvidia chipsets? This is a big gaming company, gaming laptops. Nvidia Riva was not supported. So lot of hardware was not supported. So very cleverly, Linus Torvalds has turned to Rust programming language, and yeah, the latest Linux kernel supports everything that Windows and Mac will support. And if you want to work with latest Linux kernel, already in my computer, I have a kernel. Yes or no? Now what I can do is I can install second kernel. I will see all these things. I can install second kernel. Are you getting the point? What I can do is on the same computer, I can install 6.8 kernel. You can't do that in Windows. It's only possible in Linux. The next time Linux starts, I can say, please boot either with this kernel or with this kernel. Then Linux will start. If you think this kernel is good, you can remove this kernel. You can have multiple kernels. As a DevOps engineer, it is quite important for you to understand you should support a lot of kernels. That's the reason I'm telling the whole story today. Plus, you also should know the history of Linux. You should not be a dumb guy. Okay, so tomorrow you get a project. Can you create 100 Linux servers? Some should be running 6.1. They will give you the specific number 6.6.7. They will actually give you the specific number. You need not worry about it. Are you getting the point? So they have the releases here. They will give you specific number. You need not worry about it. Are you getting the point? So you have to only give them that version. Yeah. As a DevOps engineer, you should be knowing how to install a particular Linux. That Linux will come with a default kernel. Then how to install the latest kernel and how both of them will coexist. Is the spelling correct? No. SIST. So they both coexist. How to spell exist? EX? Yes, SIST. Are you getting the point? So they both will coexist. Are you all getting the point, gentlemen? Okay. Can you run multiple kernels in a Linux? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Should you learn it? 100%.
Oh,
100%. Is it sort of? Na baba, mast aasan hai. It's a question of executing a couple of commands.
Okay.
Yeah. But you should know how to do. When I say aasan hai, humko aasan hai, not for other people.
Yeah.
స్టోడ్ ఫోర్ సినికి సంపుతుందండి తెలుగులో చెప్పాలంటే నా లాంగ్వేజ్ లో. ఆర్ యు గెటింగ్ ద పాయింట్?
Yes, sir.
ఇట్ విల్ హంట్ యూ, బట్ వీ విల్ మేక్ ఇట్ ఈజీ. बिकॉज व्हाट इज अवर एम एज ए डेवऑप्स इंजीनियर? जो काम मुश्किल है वो पहले कर देना, ఏది కష్టమో ముందర చేసేయాల. సో టూ థింగ్స్ ఆర్ కీ టేక్అవేస్ ఫర్ యూ. You have to be super damn very good at
Well, logs.
logs, because one of the jobs we are trying is SRE. Site reliability engineers are the highest paid engineers at a average of 20 lakhs for 3 years experienced, 35-40 lakhs for 5 years experienced. Not even top quality programmers get that salary. Because tomorrow, if a commercial website is down, who is responsible? SREs. You have to be BOP of logs. So that is one thing we will concentrate. So within DevOps, there is this is the job description, SRE. Okay, that is one thing you should understand. Then you should also understand that RC3 is release candidate. So these things come by experience, yaar. Huh? First, beta testing. When somebody creates something, they will do alpha testing. For example, I create a new Linux 6.8. Alpha Linux is when you give this within your company. Within my company, I'll go to all departments. Array, we are creating new Linux. Can you all test? So this is within your company. Last 1 minute, please. So within your company, you will do alpha testing. Then what is beta testing? You will release it to worldwide.
Worldwide.
Anybody can test it. There is no gamma testing. Alpha testing, beta testing, then it goes to release candidate phase. And finally, stable version is released. That's all, guys. If you have any doubts, you can ask.